Hello everyone, Marsh W13 here with another hotel review, and this week we are in Las Vegas, Nevada on the extreme south side of the famed Las Vegas Strip, and we're at the Delano Hotel, which is part of the Mandalay Bay complex. And we find ourselves on the 23rd floor, room 23081, which is a king suite with strip view, which allegedly lies just beyond those curtains. More on that later. But for now, let's check out the room. When you first enter the room, you find yourself in this little corridor here, clearly very well lit. And there are a couple of push-button indicator lights that tell housekeeping whether you require their services or whether you do not wish to be disturbed. And again, we are in a suite, and not every suite has one of these, but this one does have a half bath just off the entryway here. Nothing terribly special about it, but consistent with what you would expect from a 4 or 5 star hotel on the Strip. And this suite is split into a living room and a bedroom. You've already seen the living room, but just to provide a quick overview, much of it is devoted to this beautiful sectional couch, which I can vouch is quite comfortable. As you can see, very well lit. There are, I believe, some light switches, wall-mounted light switches that control these lights, and some interesting artwork on the back wall. Other than that, you have a wall-mounted Samsung TV, which looks to be in the neighborhood of 42 inches. Gotta love the Samsungs. And a little work area desk with not terribly ergonomic, looks like a decent chair, just no armrest, and it's clearly showing some wear and tear. I think that the Delano is around a decade or more in age. Nothing terribly special here. I think the one thing is that there's no particular feature in this room that just absolutely blows you away. Everything is kind of just satisfactory, something between a 5-star hotel and maybe what you would see in kind of an efficiency sort of sub-full service hotel like a Homewood Suites or something like that. Overall, no complaints really, but for instance, this lamp here, nothing terribly special, and that's often the impression that you get from many elements of this room. Now, it may not be immediately clear if you browse the Delano and or Mandalay Bay websites that there is a separate in-room dining menu specific to the Delano, but indeed there is, and I can tell you from having reviewed the Mandalay Bay in-room dining service that they are quite different. In fact, the Delano has, I guess, some sort of breakfast/lunch restaurant called Della's downstairs, and you can obtain delivery essentially from that restaurant. It says from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. daily, but then at all other times you are subject to this Delano Classic menu, which it looks like there's a $150 minimum in order to enjoy that. So you've got the Della's menu, which again you can only get until 2 p.m. and then it reverts to this Delano Classic, which does have a breakfast menu, but then I guess again your only option for dinner would be this menu here, which includes things like shrimp cocktail, ribeye, chicken parmesan, and then desserts. I suppose that if you are just one person or even two people, you might struggle to reach the minimum, again, if I'm interpreting this correctly, to enjoy this service. Now, there's also a wet bar area, which actually, when you really look at it, is probably one of the higher quality elements of this room. Not that wet bars really matter to me, but this is a full wet bar. And at first I didn't quite know what this was, but it is in fact an ice bucket, and a very, very cool looking one. Looks quite insulated, and you don't usually see kind of a faux leather bound ice bucket. And then you see some real glasses, and I thought these were kind of cool. I'm not exactly sure what this is, but I assume that if you open up one of these cups, it is not only Delano branded, but it's a kit of sorts that has, I'm assuming, everything you might need to make a cup of coffee. I'm not sure if this costs money. It certainly appears to be on one of these weight sensor platforms. And then there's a Keurig maker, which you don't necessarily see those, except in perhaps the top 10% of hotel rooms. So usually, again, kind of a mark of quality. And then you have the mini fridge, and you see some pretty high quality wines and spirits right off the bat. Real champagne from the Champagne region of France, Tito's vodka, full bottles essentially, or half bottles. And then you see the little individual bottles, some fairly high quality snacks. I'm not sure why some of these have to be refrigerated. Usually you just see things like trail mix and chocolate chip cookies and other kinds of candy. Looks like we have some bacon jerky as well. You usually see those outside of refrigeration, but in this case at least, the gummy bears and M&Ms and that sort of thing appear to be part of the fridge. Looks like there's some sort of intimacy pack or something, some more spirits, and an assortment of soft drinks, bottled water, and sports drinks and beer. Now, entering the bedroom here, everything is just extremely plain and white, which I think is quite modern. I don't know if they pulled it off here in such a way that it leaves a unique or uniquely good impression necessarily, but thus far, I mean, it seems okay. High quality linens, relatively high quality. The bed feels a little bit kind of springy. So comfort-wise, I wouldn't say it's in the top 50% of beds, particularly amongst 5-star properties on the Las Vegas Strip. But things are relatively well lit. The nightstand has huge drawers. You've got Delano stationery, a phone on this side, and a clock radio on this side. There are standard 110 volt electrical outlets here by the light switch for the lamps. This one does not work at all, as you can see. Now that to me is a mark of bad service in general at a hotel, when things don't work, when rooms are sort of cleared from one customer and prepared for the new one, and things like this aren't reported and remediated, I find that to be problematic at a 5-star or 4.5-star or whatever this would be considered property on the Las Vegas Strip. And you have this little sitting area here, which frankly definitely does not distinguish itself in a positive way from other similar areas that you would find in other rooms at other properties on the Strip, particularly suites like this one. And then at the foot of the bed here, you have this sort of combination dual closet slash entertainment slash chest of drawers space. Again, you have a Samsung TV. The television is about the same size as the one in the living room, which is more than adequate. This is the second room I've stayed at in a row on the Strip that featured 2 closets, which can be convenient whether you're a couple or in even a dual or 2 double bed setup. It would be extremely convenient for 2 friends staying in a room to have sort of their own separate spaces. So seeing this more and more, in this particular case, they take advantage of depth here by orienting this rod from which the hangers hang from front to back, which is kind of interesting. Usually these closets these days I've been seeing have different kinds of hangers in the 2 closets, and that may be the case here. But as you can see, there is relatively ample space. This particular closet has an iron and ironing board, and plenty of space here in these drawers. I do like this. I don't think you'll be at a loss for space. And then again, yes, you have different kind of hanger in this closet and slightly different utilization of space here. Some more drawer space and a safe, which, as you can see, easily accommodates, in my case, a laptop, tablet, e-reader, and several different types of cameras and other electronic equipment. So I'm very happy with this part of the room. Even though it's not anything terribly special, it's just on the right side of adequate to be very pleasing for my purposes. Now, moving on past the folding stand for your luggage, which was in that position when I entered the room and has been quite convenient thus far, you have the master bath. And I think in the case of this suite at the Delano, we somehow saved the best for last, because to me, if you look at the trimmings and amenities and layout of this bathroom, this is the part of the room that may be most consistent with a true 5-star luxury property. You have, of course, a separate room housing the toilet. You have a glassed-in marbled walk-in shower, which doesn't necessarily have any special features, but certainly looks quite nice. You have a tub, separate tub, which is not jetted from what I can see, but that deficiency, if it is a deficiency, is perhaps compensated for by the fact that there is a wall-mounted television, and a fairly good-sized one. It's not a small one that lives in one corner of the mirror or something. This is a good, 30-ish inches. And optimal viewing angle here with the tub over here in the corner. And then you have just a very well designed space here with two basins, kind of like you had two closets. Everything here comes in twos. Almond and olive bath amenities. Not a lot of towels from what I can see here, so that may be a deficiency, but there probably are some towels, and indeed there are here on the bathtub rack, for instance. But there is a hairdryer, and again, just a very aesthetically pleasing space with some shelving here that contains some additional amenities from Cure, which I believe you'll find in any and all MGM resorts. And for our finale, we can scrutinize the view, which, as I may have mentioned at the outset, this is considered to be a strip view, and indeed, because we are at the southernmost point of the strip with the airport, McCarran International Airport, just off to our east, you don't have the same kind of just epic view that you may have if you were staying more mid-strip around the Bellagio or City Center or Paris or something like that. Instead, you see sort of a bunched up clump of buildings, which I'm sure will be quite beautiful at night, but you see kind of an obscured view of certain elements of the strip as it extends northward. Most prominently, you can see towards the center bottom right of your screen the part of the Excalibur Hotel, which is covered by this monstrosity that is the Luxor. Just beyond that, on the right, you can kind of see part of the MGM Grand, and to the right of that, the Tropicana and Oyo hotels. And then hiding behind the Excalibur is the part of the Manhattan skyline that forms the New York. And then to the left of that, the Park MGM. You can see part of City Center, including the Vidara and the Cosmo. And then aside from that, you can just see bits and pieces of the High Roller Ferris wheel, Planet Hollywood, the Venetian, maybe a little piece of the Paris. And right now, although we can't see it, actually we can, there appears to be some sort of parade, I believe in commemoration of the Pac-12 championship game, which is occurring this evening just next door at Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play. And that, I believe, is the University of Oregon marching band, the Ducks. So what are my initial impressions of this room? Well, I think if we had to review what we've seen over the course of this tour, I think there were some cool design elements and utilization of storage space. There was some general wear and tear on a hotel that is relatively new. There was a relatively small maintenance issue. Not the greatest bed in all of Las Vegas, but great bathroom, and the property is quite beautiful. I think you can ask anyone, you can watch other reviews concerning the property itself. There are plenty of dining options, some entertainment options, and from what I understand, the pool is really second to none. And I'm speaking of the Mandalay Bay pool, which I'm assuming is accessible to Delano guests. As for the location aspect of the property, I think it's quite obvious this is one of the worst places you can stay on the Strip, perhaps matched only by a stay at the northern extremity of the Strip, like the new Resorts World. The problem is that these properties are relatively isolated. This one does adjoin the Luxor, but there's nothing on the other side of Las Vegas Boulevard. And again, we are at the southernmost edge, so there's nothing on the other side of us, even on this side of the street. So to get to sort of the heart of the Strip, that's given the space and time scales, if you will, here on the Strip, in which it sometimes takes a good 10 minutes to get from property to property, it's probably at least a good 15-minute walk, and possibly longer, to get to the Bellagio, City Center, whatever you consider to be the approximate center of the Strip. But otherwise, if you're just here to gamble, and particularly as we saw down below where there's a parade to the football stadium currently in progress, this is an ideal location if you want to attend, say, a Raiders game, for instance. Allegiant Stadium, I don't think that there is any more convenient a location to access that stadium than from this property and perhaps the Luxor next door. Well, if you do find yourself on this end of the Strip for any reason, I think that the Delano is a fairly good choice. And if you do end up staying here, I hope that you agree. But either way, please let me know. In the meantime, safe and happy travels. Marsh W13 out.